Let's get started. Kia ora, everyone. Welcome for today's meeting. First, I have got apologies. Pauline would join us via Zoom or might be late. Can I please call for mover? Second, John and Jake, and you all say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do I call for any declaration of interest, please? Everybody, thank you. Confirmation of previous minute.
I'm happy to move that.
Wick and Simon. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now we have got for our public forum, Libby. Libby Grievance will report back on competing in NZ Rowing and Beach Spring Championship in Auckland. Which our Youth Development Fund has supported. Welcome, Libby.
Hello. Is there some pictures as well, potentially?
Coming up right away.
Well, hello, my name's Libby. So I got one of the youth development grants for this year, which went towards my rowing season. So I've been rowing for quite a while now, about 8 years. The picture's up on the screen from when I first started. So I went through the school program at Avonside Girls High School. I was there for 5 years, and I specialised in the single scull, as I was unfortunately the lone rower there for a number of years. But it was a really great building time, and I really enjoyed getting to row there and got stuck into it. From there, I moved to where I currently am basically rowing, which is in the Canterbury Rowing Club, which is part of the Canterbury Rowing Division. I moved through the grades there quite quickly. I've been there for 3 more years now. So I started as an intermediate and then a club athlete, and I'm now there as part of the senior women's squad with some very, very good rowers. So the boat that you can see on screen, that's our senior women's quad. And we also had a lot of training time in a premier women's quad, which had some Olympians in it as well, which was a really good training opportunity. And that is the boat that I spend the most of my time in now, which is the women's quad on the flat water. And these are kind of some of my other rowing. So I applied for my 2025/26 rowing season, which is kind of just concluded. Can I go back? So that was for flat water, which started at the end of last year and kind of just concluded. In that boat that you see there, I got a few silver medals, and we got 4th, unfortunately, at the New Zealand Champs, but it was a very, very good race. I also raced in an exhibition mixed quad, which did win the New Zealand title. And then in this screen, I moved through after club season into university rowing, where I rowed for the University of Canterbury. I rowed in the Women's Championship 8, which was for the University Tertiary Sport New Zealand title. We unfortunately didn't place in that, but it was a really, really good race. That's a slightly longer one, over 3.2K. And from that boat, I also got a trial into the New Zealand Trans-Tasman Championship 8. I unfortunately placed 9th in a seat racing day, so did not get in, but was very fortunate for the opportunity to even get to trial and to get recognised by the New Zealand selectors. And the picture on the other side is actually me with my mum. So she rows for the Union Rowing Club, which is the other club in Christchurch, where a lot of the Masters rowers are. And she's been there probably about 4 years now, and as part of it, I like to give back a lot of time to help with them. I do some coaching with them, and I also cox some of their Masters 8s. And so I went to the South Island Masters Championships this year as well and coxed their senior 8. She's been there probably about 4 years now.
Likes to watch it back. But it's just sharing it to our Facebook. So
And Oh, this is just a little bit of outside of rowing as well. So I'm at the University of Canterbury studying geography, political science, and international relations. And I want to get into natural hazard and disaster management. And so with that, I currently volunteer for the New Zealand Land Search and Rescue. I've been there for just over 2 years. I started when I was 18, and so I've been doing a lot of training with them for the past kind of 2 years. Some of these pictures are from my hypothermia management course, one with light flight vehicles and helicopters, and then also some of my advanced outdoor first aid courses, among a range of other things that I've kind of been doing there for the last 2 years. And then these last pictures are a lot closer to the beach sprint side of rowing. So this is a more new side of rowing that's kind of up and coming within New Zealand, and yeah, has just been added to the Olympic program. And it's something I'm currently in the process of doing more than flat water rowing. So I'm trying to make the move over. It is a very growing sport in New Zealand, which is why development grants like this are really helpful. So this season was a little bit unfortunate, as I was training to go up to the beach sprint champs in Auckland before I did get injured, so wasn't able to fly up there for them. But at the moment, I'm in a training block to hopefully compete at the start of the upcoming season, which is in September. And I'm kind of floating around, so I am looking at the high performance side of it. There is another boy in Christchurch who I'm trying to do some training with, and we're in the process of trying to get some more competitions brought to the South Island. So we did manage to get one put in the calendar to be in Kaitieri in Nelson, but unfortunately that one did get cancelled for low entrance. But we're very much hoping to get some more coastal rowing happening in the South Island here. And so, yeah, that red boat is actually one I brought and then have recently passed on to actually the rowing club I was with. But it is now one of 2 that's down in the South Island. So it's helping to have a base to have some boats down here so that we can be training on them. One of those pictures is on the West Coast and the other one is across in Diamond Harbour, so where we can get some training in them. Yeah. And that's basically what the grant was used for, was a lot of my rowing feed throughout the season and to try and help get into the coastal rowing. It's a very, very expensive sport to go through, especially with club season and then university season and then coastal season. And I'm very much trying to continue it as much as I can whilst going through university, but it does get harder as the fees are starting to go up and up and up. And as we start to get a little bit more professional, our equipment starts to get higher and our coaching fees start to get more. So grants like this are very, very much appreciated to keep it going.
Yeah, that's good. Well done. Do we have any questions for Debu? No, congratulations, and thank you for coming and presenting to us. You will make us proud. Well done.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Virginia Fibering, and Virginia will speak to us regarding Grasmere State Development. Welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Virginia Irving and I'm a resident of Grasmere Street. The views expressed here are my own, as well as those of other residents of Grasmere Street whom I represent. We have safety concerns regarding the high volume of double-trailered gravel trucks travelling on Grasmere Street for the Grasmere Estate development, including the Christchurch City Council wastewater facility. The installation of the cycleway along the north side of Grasmere Street, combined with the constant parking on the south side by local residents and workers from Northlands Mall, has narrowed the street, causing significant challenges. Narrowing of the street makes it unsafe for two-way normal traffic to pass each other, let alone the 2 trailered gravel trucks. Christchurch City Council have installed signs indicating no trucks allowed at the entrance to Grasmere Street and outside my home. These signs confirm that Christchurch City Council itself has imposed truck limitations due to the street's narrowness and unsuitability for heavy vehicles. Despite these restrictions, Christchurch City Council have inexplicitly permitted hundreds of heavy truck movements per day along Grasmere Street. There are at least 3 trucks every 3 minutes, and today it was every minute. Such an increase in traffic has compromised the safety of residents and other road users. I have received numerous complaints from residents witnessing unsafe driving from the gravel trucks. Emails of these complaints have been forwarded to Christchurch City Council. I can't cover them all today due to time constraints, but would like to address these at another time. However, it has been brought to my attention today and videoed by a resident between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30, 15 trucks entered and left Grasmere Street within an hour. So turning right into the main North Road, 2 went through red lights and 1 went through a red arrow, and this has actually been videoed. This is a huge safety concern and is causing frustration, confusion, congestion, and most importantly, they're breaking the law. Other drivers following these trucks are also going through red lights. There were 2 seen after these trucks went through the red lights because they're incredibly frustrated. Trucks turn right into the main North Road from the left side of the road, and this has been witnessed drivers moving beside them because they're confused and they're not sure which way to go. This needs to be addressed urgently. The destruction of a traffic light on Main North Road is evident, and there's evidence of this. This could have been easily a pedestrian waiting to cross at the intersection. This photo was sent through to the council on the 13th of March. I don't know how this can be ignored and not actioned immediately. There is a genuine danger that someone could be seriously injured or killed due to this unsafe movement of these trucks. We have previously raised these concerns via a petition, and any harm that occurs will be the responsibility of those who are warned but failed to act promptly. Contractors are not showing due care or consideration as evidenced by the behaviours of drivers towards the public. Trucks can occupy the entire road, making two-way traffic movements unsafe. I have observed instances where 2 gravel trucks pass each other, sometimes mounting the footpath to do so. The presence of multiple trucks at the same time is a frequent occurrence. Another resident also reported seeing trucks mounting the curb, turning into Grasmere Street, the same corner where the traffic light was flattened. I have personally experienced verbal abuse from a truck driver, and I wish to acknowledge that Victoria Henstock for addressing this issue promptly. Additionally, a witness reported a truck colliding with a parked vehicle outside our property, with the driver failing to stop and take responsibility. This incident raises a serious concern. What if a person had been standing on the side of the road? There is a growing perception that some drivers disregard residents' safety, often speeding excessively. Trucks frequently cross over the busy cycle and walking lane that leads to the city. This is especially concerning given the 5 schools near Grasmere Street rely on the cycle and walkway for daily commutes. Traffic control in the entrance is inconsistent and trucks are entering with no person stopping the cycleway traffic, and this has been witnessed. Adjacent to the entry point is the Nine Marsh Retirement Village. These residents regularly use the lane for walking, often with frames or electric scooters. Safety is of the utmost importance, but the high volume of traffic is also causing multiple other issues, such as noise, vibrations, frustration and stress among residents. The community's safety is a priority. Grasmere Street is not designed to accommodate this volume of traffic. We want assurance that the Christchurch City Council will prioritise the safety of the residents and take our concerns seriously and act with urgency to find an alternative route. Cranford Street is a multi-lane transit corridor, far better suited to heavy traffic than a quiet suburban street with a major cycleway. Elected members of the Christchurch City Council and Community Board, you have a responsibility to support us ratepayers. We are seeking decisive prompt action and demand an immediate solution. Our commitment to this issue is unwavering, and we continue to hold you accountable until a resolution that satisfies everyone involved is reached. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Questions.
So I have lots of questions, but I don't know if we have time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can ask me anything. A truck a minute coming down Grasmere Street. Any of you are welcome to come to any of our homes and sit and listen and feel the vibrations. And our main concern is safety, because someone will be killed on that road.
So, and these trucks are for the waterworks and the groundwork that's happening there at the moment for the new housing area.
So a lot of the gravel trucks coming in have been to do the land, isn't it? The land load testing. And this has been going on for over 6 months.
We were told, I'm a resident of Grasmere Street, we were told in April last year that they would be running 4 trucks an hour on alternate days from 7:30 till 5 p.m.
Yep.
And that the preloading test area that they are doing would take 6 months. They are still doing that preload test area 1 year later.
Okay.
Now, on top of those trucks for the preloading test area for the subdivision, we now have extra trucks coming down for the wastewater containment area, which they're going to preload as well.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Virginia, for coming.
And every single truck that enters Grasmere off Main North Road, they come down Sawyer's Arms, around the lights.
Can I please, I have to interrupt you, I'm sorry, because you have to be here to speak and we run out of time.
Every single truck crosses
Thank you for,
into the right-hand turning lane.
So can I just say, I think we need to have another meeting with the residents of Grasmere Street and a representative from the council. And that needs to happen immediately.
we will certainly be.
Okay.
Can I just say that we've got the workshop following this session, so residents are welcome to stay and listen, and we as elected members can pick up on the issues and ask staff about some of those options to mitigate the safety issues.
Okay, thank you. All right, we moving forward, we have no deputation today or any petition. And next up, we will have Len and Stephanie's here as well from ECAN. I'll take count backwards. Have to use the timer on.
Well, you talk.
Stephanie, you would mind pressing that button?
I will.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
Hey, kia ora koutou. Thanks so much for taking the time to hear us today. My name is Stephanie Sims. I'm the Community Engagement Advisor for Public Transport at Environment Canterbury, and this is my colleague Len Fleet, who's the Senior Strategy Advisor. So we are here today to talk to you about, I'm just going to set my timer, there we go. There we go. We're here today to talk to you about the Greater Otatahi Network Review. That's the review of the Metro Bus and Ferry Network and how that impacts the 10-year plan for service improvements that we're currently planning for 2027 to 30. So we haven't had a network review for more than 10 years, since 2014, I think, Len, right?
Yep.
So we, as you can imagine, have had lots and lots of feedback from the community about this, and we understand that the network hasn't kept pace with the type of urban development that we've seen across all of Christchurch, Selwyn and Waimakariri. And that's not necessarily due to lack of planning, that is about funding. So I just wanted to draw your attention first to the Regional Public Transport Plan. So this is our Bible, and this was adopted by Council last year in 2025. It sets the vision, priorities, policies and actions for the work that we do. And I just wanted to highlight, we have 5 key goals as part of the Regional Public Transport Plan, but the one that is really key to the discussion today is the focus on growth. So that means any service improvements that we do are focused on providing the greatest value for the largest number of people. The Regional Public Transport Plan actually elaborates further on our plans for improvements under the PT Futures program. And the PT Futures program has 3 component parts. One is the core network, so that's the foundations program, and that is to increase the frequency of the single-digit core routes up to 10 minutes. So we do get asked sometimes why we do that. Why do we want these core routes to be at a 10-minute frequency? And the reason is that this is the inflection point at which you don't have to journey plan anymore. So sometimes we do get asked, why don't you make it 15 minutes and have buses go into different places? This is why, and it's a really, really fundamental strategic part of our improvement program. The next part of PT Futures is the rest of network, which is a bit uncreatively named, but it's basically everything else. So it's all those 2- and 3-digit connector and suburban routes, which take people into different local activity centres across suburbs, sometimes into the CBD, not always. And that's really what we are looking to get the most information from in terms of our engagement that we're doing coming up in May. So the other part is MRT. We're not talking about that today, but these activities that we're looking at in the next couple of months and this 10-year plan for service improvements is a really, really key part of the work that we need to do to get to MRT. It's a really key part of the pathway to MRT and uplifting patronage on the network so that we have enough volume to support mass rapid transit. Just wanted to give you a bit of a breakdown on the national direction. So we've got some really key ministerial expectations. We are required to actively work towards increasing the public transport private share. So that means the amount of costs that are covered by third parties and passenger fares. This is a really, really key expectation, and any improvements that we make to the network have to be viewed through that lens of whether it improves that ratio. And we've signed up to a specific ratio that we need to show the government over the next 3 years. So the second part is delivering the national ticketing solution, and I'm hoping that you have seen some press and campaign materials around that on Motu Move. So that's our new ticketing system whereby everybody can now tap on and tap off, and that's really removed a really significant barrier to people participating in using the network. So it's no surprise to everybody here, we are in a really constrained funding environment. We are required, in order to secure that funding through NZTA and through the National Land Transport Program, which is 51%. It's a really significant portion of the costs that we cover through National Land Transport funding, to show a specific cost-benefit ratios. And that's all to say that that really does support the focus on driving patronage through improvements. That's fully aligned with the Regional Public Transport Plan and also with the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan with integrated land use and transport planning. So you may or may not have seen this headline. At the beginning of the year, TomTom is an organisation that publishes a traffic index, and it looks at 500 different cities across the world, uses GPS data. And you may have seen earlier in the year that Christchurch was actually designated the most congested city in all of New Zealand. So this is a bit of a surprise to some people. We already know that we're facing a huge influx of growth into the area. So up to about 700,000 people in Greater Christchurch by 2050. And significantly, that means potentially an additional 100,000 cars on the road, which is really a concern, for people who actually do need to drive. One of the things that we should say is we don't have any expectation that everybody's going to suddenly start taking the bus. That's not going to happen. But what we do need is a really, really good functional public transport network that means that more people can use the bus for more trips. So we really have a significant amount of pressure on that, on our land transport network. And I guess the other thing is that this is a huge opportunity for the community to have their say. It doesn't roll around all that often. It's a massive opportunity to have a say in how public transport is shaped up for the next decade. And this really underscores the fact that it's really now that we need to be doing this work. This is not a future problem. This is a problem that we need to be addressing right now. So this engagement that we are working on, there's a two-part process. We'll be coming to the community in two different ways. The first way is this public consultation around the network review. That'll be in the middle of May. You've got a project page that I'll put up for you to see shortly. We are really looking for everybody to give us their feedback on what the pain points are. We want to know how people are using public transport, what the pain points are, where the gaps are. We've got a pretty good idea. We've done analysis of the last 3 years of feedback that we've received. We've collated that with feedback that's been supplied to us by Christchurch City Council, Waimakariri and Selwyn. So we've got a pretty decent idea of what that looks like, but we need to check that with the community. That information will be put together with a whole pile of technical modelling work that our planning team will be working with, and it will influence the output of 3 different options, network options, that we will be coming back to the community with in about March of next year through the long-term plan. And this is very similar to what we did last year. So those 3 different packages are influenced by the scale, the scale of the network expansion, the speed, and the co-investment. And we've put co-investment up there. What we mean by that is co-investment by NZTA in terms of their funding assistance rate, but it's also the funding that would come from the community in the form of targeted rates. So it's really about how ambitious we are able to be. Last time we did the LTP, the council gave their preferred option, which was the most ambitious option. And when it went out to consultation, that's what the community supported. So this is an opportunity for the community to have a say 2 times. Once is to really give us the nitty-gritty of what the issues are, and then for us to fold that into the process and then come back and give their preferred option for investment over a 10-year period. We have heard lots of feedback from the community, and this is, not to go into too much detail here, but essentially one of the things that we can say is that everybody wants higher frequency. We looked at something like 3,000 specific requests for particular improvements, and 50% of the requests were for more frequency across every single route and across 128 different towns and suburbs in the whole of Greater Otatahi. So everybody wants more public transport, but going back to that constrained funding environment, we have to prioritise, we have to make trade-offs, and we have to understand what the most important priorities are. So just in terms of what we're hearing from the local community here, these are just some comments that I wanted to share with you. They're, across the board, you can really see requests for more reliable and frequent services. That's really across the board, but we got some really good detail of what that means for people. And you can see that in some of those comments there. Some of those employment areas nearby, there are some gaps, particularly in the industrial areas. We know Northlands is key. There's lack of services to Northlink. There's a lot of congestion issues and some requests for earlier and later services. One of the things that might be interesting to the local community in terms of Edgware and Shirley is the proposal for changes to Route 44 and 135. We have proposed, actually I should preface this by saying part of the network optimisation program and the expectation of government is that we make the most of the resources that we already have. So there's lots of low performing routes on the network. One of the lowest performing is Route 135. It's very, very poorly used, and it has a subsidy of about $15 per person. So that's really high. Our proposal is to take that route, or to remove that route, and to repurpose those assets for Route 44, which is extremely well used, but terribly unreliable for a range of reasons. So as a part of this consultation, community members will have an opportunity to look at that proposal and give us their preferences. And it's a really, really good example of what it means to be more effective with the finances that we do have. Oops, that's me. And then I guess the next conversation was how can we support you? We understand that everybody is deeply connected to the community here. We will have a big campaign. We will have materials and posters and flyers. We'll have got online information. That link down the bottom, ecan.govt.nz Metro Review, is currently live. It's a holding project page. If you have community members that are interested in public transport, please feel free to share that. We are really happy to give you flyers to help support you with those community conversations. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, we do. Jake, you're good for your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Just 1 minute.
Technical things. Thank you for that. I can see the issue that the emphasis is going to be really, I suspect, on driving your most busiest routes and increasing service where that is, and that does help to justify future investments in RT. I was interested in something you said about the multi-move system.
Multi-move, yeah.
Removing a barrier. Is that primarily just because you don't have to have a Metro card? You can just link it to your bank.
Yeah, that's right. So you don't have to go through that whole process of going into the interchange, and you've got to take ID and you've got to get a card, and then you've got to figure out how to top it up. And it's a bit of a process, to be perfectly honest. So now lots of people, you'll hop on the bus these days and people just use their phones, or they'll use their watches. And for those people who just would never bother going and getting a card, it's just for those occasional uses. Like if you're going to an event in town or something, or a night out, you've got that opportunity to use the bus now.
I can empathise with that exact position, but what's your patronage uplift been roughly?
I knew that would be a question. Do you know? I don't know the exact number.
We've only just bought the system in end of last year. They're getting good numbers of people that are transitioning to the tap and go sort of system. So, that's good because, and of course, over the last month, we've seen a bit of a turnaround. A lot of people are getting on and using the tap and go system because They, you know, petrol prices have gone up at the convenience of actually getting on the bus and not having to have a Metro card. They can get on and tap and go.
I do think there's been at least 500,000 taps on the system so far. I think that's what I heard recently. Yeah, it's a lot.
Cool, thank you, interesting.
Thank you, Jake. Emma?
I was going to say, perhaps we could invite them to our network meeting. Be a good place.
Yeah.
Network meeting, you meet with all the community groups. It would be great to have you speaking to the community groups there.
That would be really great. Yeah.
And you were just talking about that the government private
Revenue ratio.
the private share. What sort of increase is that from current? Is it increased?
It increases 1% every year. So effectively, I think at the moment we're down as low as something like 12%, but it goes up every year. It goes up by 1%. So you're expected to recover more every year from your system through user pays, fares, you know, rather than the government contribution.
And so, what's the government going to do if you can't make it?
Well, that would probably be a case of, I'd imagine, they'd say we'd have to cut our cloth to fit, which would mean cutting services, not paying for more.
So are they increasing so you're increasing your share by 1% a year, but the overall cost must be increasing every year as well. So are they also increasing the amount that they're putting in every year?
No, it's a standard percent, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're on track so far. We're looking okay so far. It's just that whenever it comes to making any really specific changes, it has to be viewed through that lens of what's the impact on the private revenue ratio.
I think we're ahead of track for this year.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And our percentage is much lower than other public transport authorities. They're much higher.
Thank you. Vic?
Thank you. Can you just pull up that slide that showed the map on it? Is it that one? That one there. What is Route 135 and Route 44? That's that I'm familiar with it.
Oh, sorry.
The green one.
Yeah, Route 44.
Where are they going? Yeah.
So Route 44 is the blue one. And that is Shirley Westmoreland.
Yeah,
Shirley.
Westmoreland, Shirley.
Westmoreland, Shirley.
Westmoreland to Dallington at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm geographically constrained. I couldn't figure out where we were.
Sorry, I know it's a really convoluted map. It's sort of trying to show all the different things. And then
135.
135 is,
Shirley to New Brighton via Preston's.
and that's that green one that goes out, the green dotted line, and it goes all the way out. It presently goes out to North New Brighton, all the way down to South New Brighton, where it meets with the pink line at the bottom.
Thank you. And then the other two following questions, you mentioned that there'll be the public consultation around May, June this year. And then you said in March next year. I'm just trying to figure out what happens between June this year and March next year.
Right, so what will happen is the information that we get through the survey will come together. It will be joined up with technical analyses that the modelling groups are doing, and they'll come up with 3 different options for network improvements. So it'll basically be the sort of more expensive, faster, wider coverage option, a sort of middle option, and a kind of holding, don't do too much option. And there's a public transport rating implication for each one of those. So they will be put forward in the long-term plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there'll be an opportunity to submit again. Will there be
Yes.
hearings on this review? If
Not
citizens
on-
want to be
Not on this review, but we're doing
the hearing.
on the hearings.
on the
yes.
on the
long-term plan, yeah.
Okay. And then the final question then, which has just dropped off my head. Yes, engagement with some of our elderly population. We've got a number of care facilities, rest homes, retirement villages, particularly around the Papanui ward. There's about 5 or 6 in the neighbourhood. We have ongoing concerns raised by them about the lack of access to bus routes and the walkability. I would just be keen to make sure that there is some bespoke engagement that occurs directed at those care facilities and the rest homes in the Oceania and the like, to ensure that they are taken along on the journey. Thanks.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, Victoria. Mark?
Thank you for this. I'm just curious, I guess, what's your service level for, I guess, distance someone lives to a bus stop?
Do you want to talk?
Sorry, what was that, Mike?
Like you obviously have your plans and also down there, like how close someone should be from a bus stop. What is it currently?
200 metres, right?
And so when you remove, say, 135,
Mhm.
how many people will fall outside of that?
We've still you've still got the 7 route, which is the orange one there. The 135, the main effect for that will actually be in Dallington, where we changed the Dallington service, which is down the bottom of the map there, where it's shown, where you change that for the 100 route. So most of the routes are covered by other services.
Right, but do we know how many people fall outside of the 400 meters when we remove these?
We can measure that, and that's something that they've looked at when they've come up with the proposals to change the 44 there.
And what,
Because one of the things you'll note with the 1335 is it doesn't service South Preston's there.
Yeah.
And now our proposal is to put a better service in through South Preston's, and a more regular one that gets people into town without having to transfer.
Yeah, I guess the concern though, as well, we're trying to obviously look for patronage on some of those main routes. It's actually the people that lose access entirely to PT, which is actually also very concerning as well.
we've got a really good plan for mitigation. The team have done a pretty good job here. So the reality is that 80% of the people that serve that 135 service are students, and they've all been accommodated on school services. There are some key places where people will have a reduction in service, but it's a very, very small number compared to the number of people that will gain access to services through the uplift in increase in reliability on the 44. And this is the truth of what these kinds of trade-offs require. So there will be people who have a lower level of service, but it's a very small number of people. And we also have with regards to the engagement, we've got some really, really specific engagement happening on this to make sure that we get all of those people who are going to be impacted by this proposal. And the information still has to go back to council. So they're the ones that will obviously make the decision based on the feedback that we get. So we have got information that will go out that will clearly spell out what the mitigations are for some of the people, and have an opportunity for them to have their say as well.
So can I just double check? So the decommission of these routes, that's going to get consulted on, or? That
is consulted on through this next network review process. So there's the wider network, which is all of the key priorities that people might have. And we also have embedded in that this particular consultation about the change proposal for 44 and 135.
And if I'm reading correctly,
oops,
the bit where you've got for super gold card holders, they can basically use total mobility as the alternative?
We understand that that's not necessarily the case for everybody. Sorry, that slide should have been updated. That's the case for some people, but not for all people. Yeah.
Right, John?
Yes. Thank you, Sunita. Do either of you know what proportion of public transport is currently covered by fares of operating costs?
The operating costs is down, it's around 12-13%.
12 or 13?
Yeah. Yeah, that's when we talk about private revenue ratios and that, it's generally fares and anything we can get in terms of advertising at the moment. So
sure. And probably, is there a breakdown on those costs available to the Metro review?
Not through the network review, but we do have a dashboard that we publish, I think, monthly, and it gives you the information on the top 5 or 6 and the bottom 5 or 6. So it doesn't give you every review. So obviously each route is slightly different because it has different patronage and
of course.
Yeah.
We can provide that to you. Through the annual plan, you'll have that information as well. But we can, if you need a direct sent to you, we can send that through to you.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's very interesting.
Okay.
Now, just a couple of more, if I may. Oh, the tap and go, an easy one. Is that done by cards, or can it be done with the old-fashioned plastic cards as well?
It can be done with your tap and go card.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Just wanted to check on that. And finally, the 5 insights for our area, what the local community is telling us, which range from reliable and frequency, which is, no surprise, I'm sure, I'm absolutely certain you're onto that. And number 5, which is requests for earlier or later services. And I can imagine that being, thought of too. What's the how would you say, the the ranking of those five in terms of frequency is the big one, I understand.
Yeah.
How much bigger a deal is frequency as compared to the lower ranking?
Oh, I can tell you actually. So of the roughly 3,000 comments that we got, and bearing in mind that we scraped this from a range of sources. So we gathered this from sources like the Life in Christchurch survey, like our previous annual plan or long-term plan consultation. So we weren't asking questions specifically for that purpose. So we sort of pulled it all together with the idea that we wanted to gather essentially patterns. So I wouldn't want to get too granular on it, but what I can tell you is that at least 50% of all the comments related to increased in frequency. So it's really high on people's lists.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Up next, we have got Sean on Zoom. Okay, he's there. Kia ora, Sean.
Hello, I'm here.
Cool. You?
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. And would you like to speak to your report, Sean?
Do I need, this is number 8.
Number 8.
Proposed roads for Preston's Road. But I think it's all.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. You can virtually step away for a second because I know next is again you. So Mike has moved and Jake seconded. Any debate? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Aye.
Thank you. Next again, Sean, you're welcome back. Proposed
Thanks.
name change for 7 Selkirk Place.
So I guess the only thing to say is that just this is a continuation of earlier stages that we've had in front of you guys for road naming for the broader, I forgot the name of it, Oak Bridge subdivision.
Yeah.
So they're just continuing the existing theme.
Okay. Do I have?
Don't have to move.
Okay, John and Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Here. Next we have for our bus stop upgrade on Main North Road and Marshall Road, Mansoori Johari
From our passenger transport engineer.
Please join us.
Welcome to Wood. Would you prefer to take the report as read and just directly go to question or?
Thank you. I'm going to jump straight into a question about bus stop 37933, which is 136 Main North Road.
Yes.
I see comparatively to the 294 North Road, it just says that it's approving a bus passenger shelter be installed. But the next one is approving a bus stop be installed. And I thought there was already a bus stop there. And you were just putting in a shelter, and a shelter be installed.
So both include installation of a shelter. Both have the bus stop already in place. We are adding a shelter. The one outside 169 Main North Road, we are improving the curb because it's significantly damaged.
Sorry, 136.
126 Main North Road.
So it says that you're improving that a bus stop be installed, but I just wanted to clarify, there is already a bus stop there.
No, the bus stops are there. We are just adding the shelter.
Adding a shelter and improving the curb.
Yes.
Okay, because actually that's not clear from your report. It says that you're installing a bus stop.
In table 1, I think we summarized.
Okay, I'm just looking at paragraph 6A and I was getting a little bit confused about that, but you've just confirmed that there's only a bus stop. That's fine. Thank you. That's what it was.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
And
I'm happy to move.
Thank you.
Victoria to move.
I'll second.
Oh, just missed it, Pauline. Simon, just second. All in favor?
Aye.
And means carried. Thank you. Up next, we have Medway Street, and Benjamin. Welcome.
Right.
Oh.
I was also planning to take the report as read and go straight to questions.
We have a question? Okay, John,
Hey.
go ahead.
Okay, good. I just wanted to ask about the existing pathway that goes from Medway Street toward the bridge. What's the status of that?
That part there, I think that's already in place. Yep, that's there. As far as I know, I've been on. So yep, that's there. It's constructed.
So this will be a confluence of two.
Yes.
Yeah, and because I did read the issues the broken pavement along. Sorry to be pointing at this.
That's okay. I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, good. The broken, I can see even from the photo here that there's broken pavement along here. So the reason for having two of them is to what?
So council doesn't currently have any funding allocated to the repair of the road component of the footpath, so the one that's been damaged during the earthquake. It's kind of like doesn't fit within the maintenance scope because it's an extensive piece of work to repair the curb and channel. But also with the I guess the part that's going through the red zone land, that part provides a kind of a better quality and off-road alternative to the road part if we were to repair it. And I'm just also noting that the path through red zone land is under resource consent approval, so we don't have, I guess, the community board doesn't have delegation to approve or not approve that part. We're just focusing on the parts within Fletcher Ave, which are the two connections within the road.
Okay.
Legal road corridor, yeah, those parts there to connect into the part that's being constructed through resource consent.
Sure. So it's probably quite a lower cost approach than repairing.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
You just keep that map up. So the existing part that is still here, there, are you expecting to continue to maintain and service that as a route?
Yeah, so that one's been
That one there?
yes, so that's been constructed as a part of the coastal pathway works, and that sort of serves those people who want to go directly across Medway Street, and then I think it's on alongside the river, head north along there. So that will be maintained. It's just been built. Yeah, we would continue to maintain that. This one is supposed through the red zone land is supposed to provide an alternative for people who are living on the western side of Fletcher Ave to access the recreational amenity of the area. And it's just to also note that people who currently are travelling along the south side of Medway Street, if they were in a wheelchair or needed to try and cross that, there's no curb cut downs.
Okay.
And that's the main reason we're just trying to provide something sooner rather than later, because it's currently not budgeted for in council's long-term plan on your
And it's a
plan.
better level of service.
And it's a better level of service. It's through a kind of like a park-like setting as opposed to on the road. So
Thank you very much.
yeah.
I'm happy to move it actually.
John as a mover. Emma, seconder. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
That's down there.
Ooh.
Area. We bridge the other day. Picnic. You can also see.
Emma, you.
Emma.
Good? Yeah, okay. Right. We can continue offline.
Yeah.
Thank you. Carried.
So we're done.
Yeah.
I think I have the next one as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, you are too, yes.
Any questions on Dean's Avenue? Okay, Victoria and then John.
I just clarify where it says it is going to be slightly increased. I'm just trying to find my words. Slight increase in the amount of bus parking. Is that, how much is the slight increase? What does that represent? Half a bus? One bus?
Approximately 50 metres.
And how many
So
buses does that take?
depends on the length of the bus, but probably 4 to 5 buses. They do come in, the buses servicing the event are of varying degree of sizes and lengths. Some of them are articulated, some of them are just normal, some are sort of your more medium size transport van, but yeah,
So what's anticipated then if the buses aren't queuing? So previously the buses would come and drop off the kids and move on and you'd have a bit of a queue waiting to get in. And if they're now allowed to legally park there for the duration of the game, if you've got too many buses, where are they going to go?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We've worked with Primary Sports Canterbury to sort of try and figure out ways in which we can spread the demand to other satellite fields, such as Ngāpunawai, which are better suited to handle large bus numbers. Off-street parking, so there's no risk of affecting the road corridor. And we're hoping that this change, with a slight increase in bus parking, it's kind of like an overflow area, that part north of the cycleway crossing, as well as removing the 10-minute hours of operation or 10-minute time limit, which was never really feasible, and bus drivers were not adhering to that anyway.
Okay. So you talk about the sport, what are they called? Sport Canterbury?
Primary Sports Canterbury.
Primary Sports Canterbury. Are they primarily responsible then for engaging with the schools and the parents about this, or have you undertaken this engagement?
Primary Sports Canterbury would be responsible for engaging with the schools and therefore the bus companies that services and actually provide transport to the kids from the school to the event.
Stall provision then for parents to park who are coming to look at watch the kids sport?
I don't know how many parents do come. There are off-street car parks nearby. I'm assuming they, I don't think too many of them actually come to watch the kids, but again, that's probably outside of my
too busy with.
Right. Yeah.
Sunita, I just had one more, if I may, and that's in relation to the issue between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. There's now this prohibition on stopping of vehicles between that time, but there's actually nothing in the report, substantive part of the report, that justifies why you're putting that in there. Has it been an issue with overnight staying? It sort of comes out of the blue. Can you talk to that, please?
Yep. So that is just kind of the approach with this report, was to pretty much keep everything sort of as existing, except just make sure the bus park restrictions are fit for purpose. So there's already a restriction there that prevents people parking there at night, and that's pretty much consistent around.
So that's not new?
That's not new.
Got it. Thank you.
We did re-resolve it just for clarity within the report.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wick. John?
Benjamin, speaking of existing rules, and I'm sure I read it in the report, but I can't find it now. What's the existing P10? What is the date and time restrictions for that?
So the bus park operates from May through to August. So May, June, July, August, each winter. And the P10, and just from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So buses start arriving around between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. The event runs for about an hour, and then kids are picked up and transported back to school. And I guess with the P10, it actually made the drivers leave for an hour, drive around somewhere, find a park, and then come back. And that could just be literally like half an hour sort of thing. So by having them be allowed to stay, there's many moving parts within this, but by allowing them to stay there for the full time that they need to, we actually save costs for our parking compliance team, because once they're there, they're parked up, the parking guys can leave and the parks won't be overtaken because the bus is there. So generally, otherwise, they would need to have traffic management staff and monitoring it and make sure that people don't come and park there and then need to tow them away in that while the event is happening.
Yeah, that's good. So I'm really checking for sort of unintended effects on hospital parking, that kind of thing. But really, these restrictions are instead of P10, it's no parking for exactly pretty much the same time bands and band X.
Exactly.
Yes. So my other question is, do you do conundrums and puzzles when you go home from work also?
Not too many. I try to get away from it. But,
I imagine so.
But it was a tricky one because there was I think a report to the previous iteration of the board, maybe the Linwood Heathcote board in 2019, which tried to put together the layover and everything, and the pickup drop-off sort of setup. But the operating conditions of the event have changed since then, and there's no longer coordination between the drivers and the companies possible. So hence the reason to go with a more parking model, as well as the disbursement amongst the other fields around the city.
Yeah, exactly. Seems like quite a fair solution, and that saves 40 grand a year, which is. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Mike?
Thank you. Just a question around the disability. Thanks, Jay. A question around the disability car parking. Is there one there or two?
I think there is two from memory.
Yeah, and was there always two there?
There's always two there.
And how well used are they? Do you think there's need for more or?
It's difficult to say how well used they are. I don't have data on that. Yeah.
But we're not reducing.
We're not reducing. No, everything is existing except for that, just the change in the P10 and also that increase in capacity north of the cycleway.
Thank you. To call for mover and a seconder, John, Jake. Anyone to speak to? Oh, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving forward, our area report.
Take the report as read and welcome questions, of which I will direct to the other end of the table.
Thank you, Emma. Do we have movement sitting there to receive the report? Please?
I'll move.
Oh, yeah, here you go, popping
Right in time.
and in there, John.
Yeah.
Any questions, guys? No?
Just want to mention kudos to Ashley for doing the marathon. Congratulations.
Well done.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm just wondering, was there any, you're saying that the team is meeting with the Pacific community. Has there been any recent meetings since?
We are meeting with the parks team next week, actually, to follow up on that.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, thank you. Elected members, is it okay if we carry on through the briefing sessions and do our elected exchange and karakia at the end?
Yeah,
No?
sure.
Oh, thank you. So next, we will have our Tim, Senior Project Manager for Grassmere Structure Project. Oh,
That's it this time.
we are closing our formal meeting at 4:58 PM. Thank you.
We're adjourning.
Adjourn.
Closing, but this will going into an information session.
Information session. The meeting is closed because
But we
we're not
have a-
making any decision.
Because you can't reopen it once.
Yeah.
You can't reopen it.
Mm.
No, we haven't.
We need to go into
finished
voting.
the business. We're just adjourning.
Just a yeah. We could adjourn to do that, yeah.
We can adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Speaking. Thank you. Before we start,
Better keep going somehow.
we would just like to keep the discussion.
Just
on the
wait.
board. And if there is any further questions, it will be addressed through chair. So over to you, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Tim Ewer. I'm project manager for the Grassmere wastewater storage facility. And I'm here to give an update. Oh, apologies.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Tim Ewer, I'm project manager for the Grassmere wastewater storage facility. We're just here to give another update as to how the project is progressing. So we'll run through the project background and the current status of the project, the key activities and the milestones and the future construction activities that will be happening on the site. To provide some context and background, the neighbouring developer has worked through and received council support through the government's infrastructure acceleration fund for the development of 1,400 residential units as part of the East Papanui outline development plan. And the proposal required the fast tracking of Grassmere wet weather storage facility. The wet weather storage facility, it provides storage of 3,400 cubic metres of untreated wastewater when there isn't capacity in the wastewater network. So without the storage, untreated wastewater may discharge into Dudley Stream diversion when there isn't capacity in the reticulation. So working through since the project's inception, staff have completed the design of the facility. They've purchased the land. They've worked through consenting issues and access issues across the Grasmere Estates property. And we've recently tendered and awarded a construction contract. So this is, for those who aren't familiar with the site, Paparai Street School is to the north, or to the top right-hand side of the picture there. The cycleway is on the right-hand side of the picture, and the Dudley Stream diversion runs right to left along the centre of the picture. Wastewater from northwest Christchurch is piped in a big pipe underneath the cycleway, heading towards the Bromley treatment plant. So when the capacity of the pipe is exceeded, raw wastewater discharges into the stream, and that's the purpose of the project, is to stop that from occurring as frequently as it does. So the work to date, you'll see there that there's been some access provided. That's the developer providing access across the site. We've obviously completed the design, and we're preparing for the ground improvement part of the construction contract. So the construction contract has been awarded to Fulton Hogan, and we'll work through some of the key milestones. The next slide. So we awarded the construction contract early last month. We've been working through with the developer some pre-construction activities to get them completed. People who have gone past the site will have seen that there's been some limited mobilisation to the site, working on ongoing monitoring, bore installation and the likes, and temporary fencing, that sort of thing going up on the site. The intent moving forward is that the contractor Fulton Hogan will commence doing some preloading on site, which will be bringing an aggregate for a period of time to consolidate the existing peat layers underneath the site. And we're anticipating that will occur. It'll be approximately a week of traffic bringing the aggregate onto the site, then a delay for 3 weeks while the peat compresses, and then followed by another week of bringing aggregate on, another 3 weeks of consolidation, and then a final week of bringing aggregate on. For context, the contractor's methodology is bringing on about 8,000 cubic metres, 8 to 9,000 cubic metres of material. The existing aggregate that's been brought onto the adjacent Grasmere development site is probably around 30,000 cubic metres of aggregate. So we're anticipating that the below ground improvements, that they will be completed by September of this year. And then that will enable the above ground construction to commence, and that will be completed in September next year. To provide some level of context, there will be fencing, or the improvements to the existing fencing around the site. So from the cycleway, there'll be safety fencing put up to protect the site and the activities that are going on the site. And that provides some level of understanding of, on the left-hand side, we're going to have a compound adjacent to the site, but on the photo on the right-hand side showing the facility during the final stages of construction. Key during the tendering of this project was an understanding of how the contractor will be involved to maintain safety across the cycleway. So vehicles, there isn't the capacity to provide alternative access other than Grasmere here at the present time. The vehicles will be the vehicles accessing the site will be required to operate under an improved traffic management plan. Work to date and until the end of April, we'll be working underneath the existing developer's traffic management plan. And following that, a council project will, the contractor will apply for its own traffic management plan to maintain safe crossing of the cycleway. And we're anticipating that will involve continued manned gating of the cycleway and also a provision for times when school traffic is likely to be higher, so managing that.
So just as an insight, well, it takes us from, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking.
No, but you.
It takes us from four trucks, one truck every 4 minutes to one truck every 2 minutes.
You can continue.
Truck and trailer units for a year.
So the activities that are likely to be seen on site initially with the ground improvement work that's going to be going ahead. There'll be preloading, which will be, I believe the Grasmere Estates, they're looking at having around 5 metres of aggregate piled on the site. Our site is looking at about 2.5 metres. So the quantum is relatively small in comparison to what they are doing, and it'll be short-lived. The bulk of the methodology for us to manage the poor underlying ground conditions will be associated with the use of piles to transfer loads onto the more competent material below the peat. Once the ground improvements have taken place, we'll be looking to import precast concrete panels and to lift them on the site. We were cognizant of the likely traffic movements and the likes that would be associated with us casting in situ the concrete walls and floor. And so we've tried to minimise the amount of concrete trucks and the likes needing to access the site. One of the concerns that has been raised previously is around the noise and vibration of the associated with the construction activities. When we went through a design process, we were looking at potentially having a methodology that would have a reasonable amount of disruption and disturbance. And working with Fulton Hogan, they've provided a methodology that we think is likely to mitigate the majority of the noise and vibration issues. So that's a combination of the preloading, enabling the slow and steady improvement of the ground material. And then on the right-hand side, the piling process that they've proposed, it doesn't involve hammering piles into the ground, but instead it involves augering in a steel casing and replacing as they extract that steel casing concrete and to create a concrete pile foundation. Another issue that we've sought to undertake to overcome with the methodology is how we keep the cycleway open. We do have to connect into the pipe that runs up beneath the existing cycleway, and we've sought to do that in a staged approach whereby cyclists and pedestrians are able to continue to utilise the cycleway. rather than diverting them onto the public streets, which is what was required for the recent water main renewal down this route. We've just been working on now that we have a better understanding, we've negotiated a contract with Fulton Hogan. We're able to provide more details with regards to what the actual methodology will be, rather than making assumptions. So if you the local community should have received start work notices, and the sites have been updated. Council and Fulton Hogan have undertaken local dilapidation surveys of the neighbouring properties that are adjacent to the construction site, and we have a targeted approach with regards to the amount of communications and ensuring that these things are updated on a regular basis.
Thank you. Victoria, Mike, on.
Thanks, Sunita. I have a number of questions. I'll just kick off with a couple of them. Let the others dovetail into that. I think the first one and the most obvious really is about the Cranford Street access. So we've had public forums today from a resident about the increased traffic in the trucks. And you've heard some communication in the background here today about that. It's a real issue for residents. It's been raised a number of times. I wonder if you can give us an update, please, about access from Cranford Street, because it has been promised, because clearly Grasmere is not designed to take track and trailer units of this weight and frequency.
Look, I wouldn't be the best person to talk to the ongoing negotiation that is underway at the moment in order to obtain an access corridor from Cranford Street, but I am understanding that there is ongoing discussions in order to identify and construct an alternative access from Cranford Street. One thing to be mindful of is the project is subject to significant funding, external funding, and that has meant that there's been a strong desire to progress the project. At the moment, it has key milestones that we must meet in order to get that external funding. That's the line.
I think we've also got promises that have been made to residents that I'd like to see the council keep as well about diverting that traffic off Grasmere. So you talked about the improved traffic management plan. When are you expecting to get eyes over that, please?
The traffic management plan will be applied for.
The draft was received today. Council this week.
The draft has been received today and will go through council this week.
Great if that could be communicated through the community board, please, so that we're all aware of that. And you mentioned that the traffic, construction traffic in the early stages. Can you just pull up that slide that had the key milestones, I think it was? Please. Back. There. So during the preloading and then below ground, you said it was going to be short-lived. Can you just expand on that and give us, it's about expectation and reality for residents, please, in terms of what can they actually expect in terms of frequency of trucks and the duration of that period.
Yeah, the frequency of trucks, based on the contractor's methodology, is 30 truck movements per day and 5 days operating per month for the 3-month period that we're looking at bringing the preloading in.
So does that overlap with the residential development? If you've got 30 trucks per day for this council project, and then you've got a private development project going on at the same time. So is there a likelihood that both of them are going to overlap and you're going to be getting 30 per day for one project and 30 per day for another?
And also that's
Jason, if we please have
60.
Jason, if we could just have some respect for the council staff that are here presenting to us.
Absolutely,
Thank
but
you.
these guys understand as well.
Thanks, Tim.
In discussion with the developer today, my understanding is that they will not overlap. And that the developer will be completed with his importation before we commence work.
I'm sure we'll hear from residents if they do overlap. Look, I'm happy to leave it at that for now, but I do have a conversation, questions around the mitigation that I'll come to after my colleagues have asked questions.
Okay, Mike?
No, I'm all right. So my question was on the Cranford Street as well, but if I'm going to go, but I'm quite disappointing that no one can actually answer that question here today, because I think it's actually a really important question that's been asked. And obviously we've got a lot of residents here, and the ability to actually access off Cranford Street is quite important.
I just note that I did ask for staff to be either online or present to be able to answer that question, Mike. So is there anyone joined us online from HQ that's jumped in? No, okay.
Noted. Thanks, Mike. John?
Thank you. Yeah, the Cranford Street access was also my line of questioning, which it's outside of your remit, but who is the decision maker on that? My colleagues might be able to inform who decides or is the decision maker on the Cranford Street access?
It sounded like they were still negotiating, obviously, with the developer, whoever owns the land.
The original plan anticipated that there would be access off Cranford Street.
Yes.
And there is negotiations going with the private landowner.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to sort of figure out the parts. So in the absence of that, Grasmere Street is the only access. Which extent of Grasmere Street is being used? Sorry, I don't have a map in front of me.
The whole lot.
That would be the lot.
It is the whole lot. Thank you. And the traffic management plan, I heard you answer that indeed next week. So that will be interesting to see, because do you have any insights on what inclusions there might be in there, such as speed? Well, that's about the only control. Behavioural issues.
Look, I think that council to date has not had control. Well, certainly the delivery team of this project has not had control on the speed or actions or inactions of any people accessing that site. With regards to the delivery of this project, we do have the ability to engage with those people who are delivering this project, and we will be ensuring that they are compliant with the rules.
Yes, clearly there are some driver behaviour issues. Absolutely. Part of the mix.
In fact, they cannot physically obey the laws.
Thank you, Chair.
To get the trucks around the corners. They can't.
Victoria.
Thank you. If I can just pick up then on the issue of you talked about noise and vibration from the construction, but we've heard from residents repeatedly about the noise and vibration from the articulated truck and trailer units. And there was a suggestion that council would look into some mitigation measures to try and reduce that by reducing the speed or even flattening out the speed bump, which causes a real issue. Have you got any eyes over that, or can you take something back from here to the transport team to say that we're still hot on this issue and would like to see what options there are available to try and mitigate those issues for residents and safety?
Yes, I'm aware that there's discussions between the team and I think Stephen Wright, the head of transport, who is across this one. There have been a couple of options put up, but noting that removal of things like the traffic calming, the existing traffic calming, may have adverse effects as well on safety. So it needs to be seen holistically in their decision there.
I think what's obvious is that there's a bit of a gap in information for our residents. I think we can pick up on that today. And on some other infrastructure projects, particularly in my ward, we've had the contractors and the council holding monthly drop-in sessions and information sessions for residents. Is it possible that on this one you can consider, please, having a public information session where our residents can actually ask questions and have further information to them on the issues that are important to them. Would you take that away and consider that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then the final question for me at this stage is about Grants Road. So the question was asked about Grasmere Street and which part of Grasmere Street, and we know it's the whole length of it. There were some restrictions on the use of Grants Road for the private developer, and the trucks were meant to be going up and down there. Is there any restriction on pre-construction trucks or construction trucks for our project using Grants Road as part of a consent condition?
As part of a consent condition, no. I believe that there are difficulties with regards to access via Grants Road and the fact that when it hits
Papanui Road.
Yeah, there isn't the same ability with the traffic lights, etc., to enable vehicles to enter and exit.
Yeah, and the residents will say there's just as many restrictions up on the other end of Main North Road at that other end of Grasmere Street.
Yeah.
So I think the traffic management plan is really important for us to get some eyes over, and if there's an opportunity for us to be able to feed back into that, we'd be really grateful for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vic. Sorry, Ashley.
Please. Sorry, let's ask. I'm just going based on the traffic management plan when it comes to how are you going to keep that in place? Are you going to be auditing regularly? Will there be records daily on what's happening coming in and out so you guys actually can show the residents that you're keeping to what you're saying?
Someone's nodding over
Are you
there.
willing to put things in place to ensure residents, as obviously they're quite unhappy?
Yes, I mean the traffic management plan will be audited on a regular basis. That's outside of that's part of the road controlling authorities' requirements with regards to ensuring that they are correctly installed and that they will be no doubt have a high level of visibility and a low level of tolerance with regards to the activities that are happening on Grasmere Street.
Thank you. Okay, Simon, and then Anna.
Thank you. Can I just clarify the 30 movements a day for the weeks where the preloading's happening? Is that 30 deliveries, like 30 in plus 30 out?
Yes.
Okay. And the question of timing and perhaps getting this more aligned with a solution to opportunity access. What are the consequences of pressing pause on this?
So two things. Obviously, the project has been part of the inception of the project is discharge of untreated wastewater into the local stream, and the second one is the approximately $23 million that's externally government funded that is based on us delivering within the timeframes as agreed with the government.
Is there scope to revisit that agreement and get a variation in terms of those time frames or milestones?
I would need to make a more considered response to that because it also has impacts. Obviously, we're in commercial engagement with Port Mogan and others. So it's not necessarily as simple to just pause. Given that we don't actually know when an alternative access may become available.
Okay, and just a question, this might be slightly outside your wheelhouse, but more a design and operation question. I've had a question from the public in terms of a risk of odour, specifically whether it's wastewater and given the issues we're seeing on the east of town.
Yep.
What can the council communicate to residents who might be concerned about odour from this facility?
Yeah, odour's been a consideration in the design of this facility. There is provision for odour treatment on the site. Taking a step back, the reason that we need this facility is when the pipes become inundated during heavy wet weather events, and we're looking. As part of the delivery of the project, we thought about how how can we mitigate the opportunity for odour to become an issue, because it not only becomes a nuisance issue for neighbours, but it also becomes a corrosion issue for the facility itself. So we anticipate that water will only be in there a very short time. It'll be highly diluted. And we're looking at having we've put a lot of effort into ensuring that once the facility is empty, it is well washed out and cleaned out, both with large buckets to flush the facility, but also high pressure water washers, jet washers that will ensure that the facility is clean between cycles. That being said, we acknowledge that should there be an odour problem associated with what we find, there is the ability to simply install activated carbon units, which is what is used around the Christchurch.
And it's an enclosed tank as opposed to something that's open.
The roof on the top, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Simon. Emma.
Mentioned that the difference about the fill being brought onto the site, what's happening now was 30,000 tonne, and what the council's planning for our site is 8,000. So it's not as big as what's going on now. My question was, when they started, was it 30,000 tonne that they thought they needed to bring in, or is that gone, because it's gone longer, is that because they're actually having to bring more tonnage of the fill in than what was expected? And are you going to have to do the same?
I'm not in a position to guess as to what the developer thought that they were likely to require for their development. I'm sorry.
So,
yeah.
You know, from the work that they've done, is the land in a state that they expected it to be, or is it worse?
I'm sorry, I just can't answer that question. I'm not trying to. That's something that the developer would need to want to. With regards to the land that we're looking and the improvements that are being proposed, there has been a reasonable level of discussion with regards to what happens if we don't get the ground improvement to work as anticipated. There are two options largely that would occur in this sort of situation. One would be that we leave the material on site for a longer period of time. So that would mean that instead of mobilising the next phase of work, that we would leave the aggregate to sort out the peat and improve the ground. It might take an extra month. That sort of thing. The alternative, which we would, hearing we do hear the community's concerns. We wouldn't be looking to bringing in additional aggregate without having a very good reason in order to improve or speed up the ground improvement process.
Okay. And I suppose this is probably not your area either, but the hold up or the fact that the road connection from Cranford Street is still not in place. Is there something that saying that it has to be in place before the construction of the housing happens? At which, is there any stage in this that can be because I mean 19,000 homes.
1,400.
Sorry, 14. Sorry, 100. 1,900.
There's a lot more to go.
At stage one. So, is there anything to ensure that that road from Cranford Street is in place before that stage happens? But I mean, how long is this going to go on for these residents? Whilst this development's progressing without actually the right sort of type of environment around it for it to happen. That's out of your line.
I appreciate the question, but I'm not in a position to answer that, sorry.
We need to get that question answered. Can construction go ahead without that road in place?
So therefore, just a process question through you, Chair, about what is the mechanism then for further information to come back to us to be put out to the community around those issues that can't be answered today, please.
Thank you, Tim, for answering questions. However, I just want to highlight a few points we discussed. As Victoria mentioned, that there are certain questions unanswered, so we seek those questions to be answered. Traffic management plan would be in front of council, which is, we are waiting for that to come in front of us as well. And staff will look for information on Cranford Street action, and that would be action we will take from here. And the last one would be the regular engagement, whether it's monthly or fortnightly, to look into that aspect, to communicate with community members. I understand, and I would say my fellow members will echo the same, that it's an important project, but our communities are equally important. And there is no point of not taking everybody on board together. And sincerely that our communities heard and walked along with this, because there's far more development going to come there. So this, if this problem is not looked after at this stage, we are looking for furthermore unrest. So the community would like it to be mitigated earliest as possible. So thank you for the time.
Chair, can we actually just request another workshop or another briefing on this? Is that the best mechanism to do that?
Information to come back?
Essentially.
Yeah.
Can we just double check it for the process?
Yes, yeah, so we can certainly look into it as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're about to get into another meeting.
There is actually the ability for the council to provide access through their own land to Cranford Street.
Let's look into that for the next briefing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was confusion.
Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, okay.
Are we PX now?
No, not yet, not yet.
So, Sunita, excuse me, I need to leave. I apologise.
I'm dear.
But imagine.
Are you staying for the whole?
I'm going to be.
Pauline, I can hear you.
Excluded, but any time I can fill you in.
Pauline, actually, okay. Pauline,
Thank
thank you, Pauline.
And you've got.
Bob's
So how do the trucks get through? You're going to go out, you've got to pull off the side of the road. And I mean, we bought that house there, I live there in peace. You sit there every day. She was request that.
Yeah. We are more time before. Thanks, Tony. Have a seat. Please.
So on a lighter note now, we're going to talk about some street trees.
Yes, please.
Madam Chair, gentlemen, board. So I've put together a brief note. There's a cover sheet and there's also an attachment with some photos. Hopefully that comes up okay, because that's probably more interesting bit. So Mark, oh, brilliant, okay. They were taken a couple of months ago. We remember summer and blue skies and things, but
it was like last week, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. But time's moved on, we're into autumn now, changed a little bit, but this is a follow-on from the brief walkabout we did in St. James. And so this is a little bit more of a formal session just to talk through some more of the issues that we have in common and specifically with 4 streets that we have in this area where we've got ongoing work and you'll probably be familiar with many of those issues that we faced over time, particularly to do with the Orion project that we were running and then various requests and complaints from residents over time. So hopefully this session will just inform the board all your discussions among yourselves and with the community about these things that may pop up in the near future and then over the course of the next few months. Okay, so kick off with Dudley Street. So you may recall, just before Christmas, around November, December, we reported that some of these trees had been poisoned, and that highlights the group there from, this is looking from Stapleton Road, and where we kind of noticed that there was this dieback in the canopy. So on closer inspection, we determined they'd been poisoned. Now this sort of coincided with the trees that were hosting a flock of starlings. And many of the board will recall the conversation we had with residents about a year ago. We had a street meeting there to discuss what we could or couldn't do. So this was a little bit upsetting to find out that the trees then had been tampered with. So we've been monitoring those over the summer. At the moment, there's probably not too much work we can do on them. The dieback's quite extensive. It's quite bad, and on sort of first observation, it looked like it was quite severe. But we didn't have enough evidence to determine who had done it, when they did it, how they did it exactly. So we've kind of stalled a little bit. So we'll continue that through the winter and into next spring, next summer. So that might influence how we sort of work with the community there to resolve that problem. Yeah, not the best photos really, are they? But anyway, that just kind of highlight for the record that we've, that's one on the right that's really looking out through the canopy. You can see the extent of it on that left-hand side. It's quite severe. So we are working in the street next week to do other maintenance. If we flick this slide. Yeah, so that's another tree in the street further along. Now that's the sort of thing that does concern us because, again, you can sort of notice sort of gaps in the canopy and some sort of jagged branches where we've had a number of large tree branch failures. And that tree now is quite vulnerable to further wind damage. And we're going to have to work on that tree quite severely to bring the canopy right down because we can't sustain that sort of canopy with such a loss. So that's kind of where our focus is at with some of these trees. So we don't know how that will be received. It's quite significant work, but we've seen examples of it we've done in other streets on other trees around. So it's just a sort of a typical problem that we have to deal with. Yeah. Okay, next slide. We'll be moving on to Massey Crescent. So again, another street. Typically, all these old oak trees that we've got in the ward. We've had a particularly bad, sort of stabilised now, but we had a particularly bad sort of year with wind damage early on during the spring and then over summer. But this one has been going on a couple of years, and it's been a few trees that had failures. One tree we had to remove. We get insurance claims, and there's genuine sort of concern from residents about their safety. So about a year ago, we had to go in and do some quite significant pruning. The one on the right, that's where we can do it sort of sensitively, and we've managed to retain some sort of semblance of a natural canopy, but that has been reduced quite significantly. The one on the left, you can see from that big gap right in the middle, it's lost a lot of its top canopy, and that's broken out. And then you get development of the side laterals, which then are prone to sort of failure. So that's as it is now. And yeah, just some more examples of trees we have. If we go to the next slide, please. Okay, again, Massey Crescent. So these two trees we're quite concerned about. The one on the left, you can't quite see from the photo, but it's very bushy canopy, so it appears to be healthy. But again, you can see it's lost a lot of its top canopy. And the stem structure, the scaffold, what we call, is actually all supported by cables. So we're basically holding it
Is that
together.
what you want for a tree, is it?
No, particularly in that situation. I mean, it's right over somebody's house there. And so we just don't know how long we can keep these trees together and keep them healthy. The one on the right there, again, with street trees, when you have to do successive pruning to lift up the canopy to clear the road, etc., you develop that sort of top growth. So that hasn't sustained so much loss, but the stems start to weaken over time and they develop splitting in the stems. So we're concerned about that one. We don't really want to end up with it looking like the one on the left where we have to cable it all together. Again, it's right over somebody's house. They happen to like that tree. They really want to keep it, but I'm sort of concerned for their safety on that one. So these two trees we're actually proposing to remove. The problem being that as soon as we start removing trees from an avenue, we create holes and the wind gets in and starts doing other things, which is just unpredictable. So bit of a dilemma. Next slide, please. Thank you. This has just helped you. So the problem, I think, in Massey Crescent is not so much the removal of trees or how we're pruning them, but what comes next. So it's an interesting street. I think there's a little plaque at this beginning street, and it's got a picture of a tree in, and there was sort of community, I think, who love their trees, but it's a funny shape. It is a crescent. It's a sort of half crescent, and I suspect there's a sort of mixed feeling or understanding with people in the street. So when we went along to replant some trees where we'd lost some or there were gaps, some of it wasn't well received. So this is something that might come back to the board just to work through. So we've got this plan on the right, and that indicates where we think we can plant some new trees, which is the next generation. We certainly don't advocate for replanting oak trees and then sort of creating that problem in the future. I mean, it's a little bit sort of, we have the urban forest plan where we wanted to create canopy, but in the street environment, it's really difficult. But at least if we get some trees in where we can, and then the right tree in the right place, then I think that should be beneficial. So we're about to go back to the community and just ask for some feedback on what do they think about us planting some more trees in the street. I'm not sure what response we'll get. We may get a positive, we may get mixed. I'm not sure. So it may be that we then have to formalise that and come back to the board for some involvement, some advocacy, or get approved one way or the other. So it's a bit of a watch this space, but hopefully this autumn we'll go out with that, and over the winter we can resolve the situation there. Yeah, so that's Massey. Thanks, Mark. But this is probably a bit fresher in your memory because we took a walk up the street in the evening. Here we just finished pruning St. James last week. They're largely defoliated now, so they're all into dormancy. So I think we got it at the right time. But this kind of illustrates on the left there, we've got varying. See the one in the centre, this background where it's got full canopy. That's kind of how these trees should be. But over time, with all the sort of pressures and environmental changes, we're basically having to manage what are now veteran heritage trees in a really difficult street environment where they're basically planted in the road and they're struggling. So what happens is they just exhibit a whole lot of dieback. So we're just chasing that and keep pruning. So in that first photo on the left, you can see not so much the one on the left, but the photo more towards the right, where we've had to modify that canopy. It's not brilliant, but it's it still exists. Yeah.
Still home for a bit.
Well, yes, The one on the right, though, that's a bit more advanced in its decline where you're getting it not so much just in the tips of the canopy, but all through the stems. And there's really not a lot we can prune to retain that. It's also situated between two driveways. I think that's where we stopped when we went for the walk. That tree is still there. We've done a bit of work on it, but I think this time next year we might see the removal of that tree. Sorry, next slide. Yeah, so talking about some of those impacts other than weather and climate, etc. This is the environment, the street environment in St. James. Sort of close up on the root damage. So on the left there, we've got the old dish channel, and that's just how the tree has adapted to growing that environment. There's not a lot going on there as far as sort of, you can see the buttress roots trying to grow around sort of the obstacles, so then create conflict. And it's one dynamic living thing trying to, you know, do its thing. And you've got hard infrastructure trying to do its thing and function, and, you know, and there's conflict ultimately that breaks up, stops working, causes problems with flooding, etc. The question there that a lot of people ask is, well, where are the roots? How is that tree being supported? And, you know, as we know, we had one tree failed, almost hit a house. It wasn't like that, which was extraordinary. But that was probably the best of the worst examples I could find in that street, that, you know, you'd have to question, you know, what's the stability of that tree. So it's another one that we're keeping an eye on, and it has to be removed. Coincidentally, it's right next to a development site as well, so it's had a lot of pruning work. At the middle picture, just another impact on trees. That's what people do. The parking situation is not great, so that, I mean, I saw that person do that, and I didn't say anything, but yeah, it's just, you know, human people, you know, how they interact with trees, doing what they do. But yeah, it just illustrates the amount of compaction and you know, and again on the right, you've got that degraded road surface there, and that's where a tree has been, but it's really just a mud patch. And it's like, what do we do with that? To reinstate that into berm and plant, or you just reseal it and it becomes part of the road, which it kind of effectively is. So yeah, these are the sort of decisions that we're going to have to make as to how we deal with St. James Avenue. It's not, as I understand, on any current list for reconstruction. So again, that's probably where the board might have some interest in looking at how we come to some sort of solution longer term, given that they're heritage trees, and there's going to be quite a lot of debate, I think, around, you know, what we can and can't do. Yeah, I think we've moved on from St. James to Shirley Street. Hello, Hannah. I think there's some good news with some of these streets here. It was a difficult project last year. It's not finalised yet. We did about 22 removals in these streets. I call them Shirley Streets, but there's 4 streets effectively there. Emmett Street being the main one. Just so we removed about 22 trees for the compliance with the electricity regs last year, and we went back to the community. We had a big drop-in session and etc. Presented plans, and I think it was well received, but we didn't get a lot of feedback from them, and it's gone very quiet. But we're now into planting season, and we're about to go back and replant these 4 streets. There's about 100 trees, I think, that we can plant, and we're just doing some final checking on them, and we'll post them up on the website just to cover off any final sort of consultation with the community on that. And that will be a good news story, I think. But again, just highlighting now we've moved on from dealing with the power lines, we're still left with the residual, or what's the condition of these trees? Again, they're the old oak trees that we've seen in these other streets. The photo on the left there highlights two trees together by a bus stop. A lot of dieback, declining canopy. So again, we're going to have to do either significant pruning on those to retain them, or ultimately they may have to be removed as well. Those are in Emmett Street. The one on the right, that's in Riselaw. So have a close look at that one. That's a really scary tree, because you can see from the berm looking up on the stem, you can see a branch has been cut, probably failed there and was cut back. The developing branches growing out over the property. Huge amount of weight, which is sort of unbalanced. And this is where trees are just amazing. You know, they really hold it together, because you know, they want to try and adapt to their environment, but at some point they can just fail. So we're looking at doing quite significant pruning on that. But again, it's potentially another removal, probably in the near future. So we're just trying to contain all these trees until we can move on and either rebuild the environment that they're all in, and we can replant, or yeah, we can replant in the environment that we've got. So again, next slide, sorry. Yeah, the one on the left, again in Riselaw Street. The tree's sort of okay, but I've zoomed in there because that's a problematic one, because you can see the footpath. So it's a little bit dappled, but that footpath basically, it's a kind of hump. And you can't get down there in a wheelchair, or, you know, with a mobility sort of aid. The curb is a little bit broken up, but that's been highlighted by our traffic roading engineers as a problem tree. So we may end up having to remove that as well, mostly because of the access, safety, and infrastructure damage. But the tree, you know, it's okay, but it's a marginal one. The one on the right just illustrates another kind of pressure that we get from development. So it's, you know, stuff happens in the road with infrastructure, but then again over the boundary, trees don't really know boundaries too well. You know, that was a vacant site next to the school. This is in Jebson, and there's a massive building going on there. It's right underneath the trees there. The immediate impact will be request to cut back the canopy, because it's conflicting with the building. And then once people move in, there'll be, you know, light, you know, shading issues, debris. And then in the immediate foreground, you know, that we try and protect them with some fencing. But, you know, that all gets upgraded and you get sort of vehicle access. So huge amounts of pressures these trees are under. We basically have to try and keep maintaining them in a sort of safe, healthy way. Is that the last one? I can't. Okay, yeah, back to the planting in those streets. So that's an example of Jebson, just outside the park. That was probably one of the best outcomes, where we had almost a dozen trees that we think we can plant there. I think we're proposing to put COFI in, that kind of links in with the park planting. And there was a strong preference for natives where we could. But yeah, just totted up some figures. So 37 in Emmett, 20 Jebson, 28 Riselaw, and 15 Skipton. So it's quite a broad range of replacement planting. Early on we did, do you remember this time? Just a little bit of a choice of species that we put out to the community, just the, you know, bit of diversity. So that will go out onto the website with these plans. But yeah, I think 100 trees is a good result for the 20 that we've removed. But in time we will still need to be removing a few for various reasons. I think is that it? Ah, right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, great if there's any questions. John Hunter.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. It's really good to see these case studies, tree by tree, the decisions and sometimes conundrums that you.
Yeah, they're live, they're happening.
Yeah,
sure.
There are two, I suppose, particular trees or clumps of trees that I focus in on. Firstly, that fairly recent one we looked at, the tree that was lifting up the pavement over the road. The cost of dismantling a tree of that stature must be huge. And I query, would it not be more effective to build a boardwalk or a sort of little bridge, footbridge, Department of Conservation style over that arch where the roots occur?
In some cases you can.
Yeah.
I think there are tolerances to, degree of angle and whether it's, it has to meet certain, the width and the angle which it goes up and the material. So in some cases, absolutely. I think with that one, they've been doing it, incrementally, and it keeps building.
They've been doing it by bombing it up.
Yes, but it's we do have to weigh up, the cost benefit of how much does it cost to do remedial work, and it might be ongoing. It might be one-off fix to retain the tree, value of the tree, longevity of the tree, and I think we can see with some of these that they're old trees. It's really difficult to say, well, how much longer can we retain and maintain them for? I'm pitching it that it's probably short, medium term for a lot of these trees. So then putting in new expensive infrastructure to retain something like that.
In the life phase of the tree.
Yes, has to be a really, really valuable tree to justify that.
I'm glad to hear that it does come into consideration.
Yes. Last resort, tree removal, last resort is still
sure.
Unless it's like immediately obvious that tree's dead or something like that. But
thank you. I have one more.
Sure. That one we were talking about,
that one. Yeah, that's the very one. Yes.
Yeah, because it diverts, and then it goes up and down. The photo's not great to see the detail, but it's
I'd like to go to Dudley Street, the starting end.
Okay.
And really for a status update on that, is the dieback, it's extensive. And I'm looking for, I guess, a prognosis. Are those trees brown bread or?
Sorry, that was the same question I had.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I just want to know are they dead or, what's their outlook?
Are they going to be dead?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, so the drill holes were just on one side of the tree. There's 4 trees. And they're all on the north side, so strangely on the residents' property side, not on the road side. So they're not immediately obvious. When you look out through the canopy, it's half the canopy affected, and between the 4 trees, there's some which are better or worse than the others. Now we're hoping that it's only temporary. It's had, and we don't know what's been injected.
Probably petrol though, isn't it?
Well, there wasn't any sign or smell or anything like that. But it's had an effect. So I think we just have to see if it's just had the temporary effect and the trees flush up. Again, their resilience to respond and try and regrow, just might be different. So it might throw out branching throughout the inner canopy rather than back on the tips. So it's going to change the dynamic either way, but we're hoping there'll be some sort of response, which means less intervention. But if it's significant, we probably won't know until the end of this calendar year. So again, looking early spring into summer, which is when we first noticed it.
Yeah.
So about 6 months away. We'll be able to see what they're doing. And if it's hasn't recovered or it's got worse, it's not looking good, because with some trees where you're reducing canopy like this, if you've still got some shape and structure, you can work with that. But if it's half a tree in that sort of dimension, it's not great.
No, it's wobbly, isn't it?
Yeah, and then if it's 4 trees, then what happens to the ones on the other side of the road? So it changes the whole dynamic of the street.
Just mentioned for wind patterns and that sort of thing. So 4 trees, about 6 months before it can be determined what the fork in the road is worth. And if they are sort of terminals, then it would be a taking down of the trees.
Yep.
I suspect they'll be hit again, quite frankly. If your intention was to knock off the tree,
Yep.
you would do it again.
Well, I guess we can only hope that it was yeah, maybe it was an act of frustration and they've done something and they could see that it's had an effect and, you know, maybe it was a statement. I don't know. But yeah, if they get hit again, yeah. So we've held back. We did think about going to the police and lodging a complaint because you know, effectively it's vandalism and it's quite a serious offence. But we were advised that we didn't really have enough evidence to do so. It's often the case, you know, unless you catch somebody doing it, you know. So in the notice that we put out to advise of the tree work we're doing next week, we have asked for any feedback from anybody that would be treated in confidence that, you know, just might be helpful. So it's sort of taking a bit more of the softly approach to see if anybody can help us with, you know, who did what, when, and then, you know, we can find out what was used potentially, and hopefully, you know, they don't do it again and we can recover the situation and work with it. It will be modified though. It won't be, I mean, David Street's an interesting street because it's like almost like an oasis of like an, it's good effect, one big canopy and it's an avenue of trees and we've redone the road. So I think there's a intent to keep and maintain those trees for as long as we can. But as I illustrated with one of them, it's storm damage. We have to do a lot of work on that one. So it's a dynamic. It's, you know, it's going to be changing over time. Sure. So that's why really I just wanted to get the message out there that, you know, we're working away all the time to monitor these situations and try and come up with good outcomes.
Thanks for the update on all these street.
Thank you, Tony. We are all updated with trees.
Right, okay.
Thank you very much.
If any questions, come back to us. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you for your time. All right. We adjourn the information session. Reconvene the meeting. So we come to our agenda number 14, elected member exchange. Anybody? No, we good? Not. All right, thank you for that. Let's close off our meeting. We'll take 2 minutes break and then we'll come back to PX. Okay, that's first. Unuhia, mama, Koyara erongo pakai ake iroga. Kia tina, uye, tai.